Okay, so welcome to our X community meeting, OpenSLO community meeting. I don't know which number would that be. We might be reaching our 20th meeting, maybe. I'm joined today by Robin and Philip. Since we all know each other, there are no new attendees at the meeting. I think we can skip the introductions. If someone is watching it and wants to know something about us, you can watch the previous meetings where we introduce ourselves. Okay, so without further ado, I will share my screen and we can look at the agenda document.
Fun fact, it's 27th meeting. It's not like
27th. Wow.
Yeah, I just counted them.
Nice. Okay. I did remember about recording the meeting. Did we have any action items from the last meeting? No, we didn't. I think we can just go straight to the these items in the agenda. We can maybe we'll start with this talk through the SDK changes. So as all of you probably know, we have finally released our OpenSLO Golang SDK initial version. Oh, we have someone coming in. That's Patrick. Nice. Hello, Patrick.
I think he has no.
There he is.
Now. Hello.
Hi there.
We have already started, and the meeting is recorded. Patrick, for your information. Do you want to add something or say something?
Oh no, I'm just here for a while because I have 2 kids to take care of, so be jumping in and out.
That's like exactly what I said. I said it's Friday and he has 2 kids, so he will be here for like 10 minutes, and we didn't communicate about this, by the way. That's so funny.
Nice.
Yeah, obvious.
So just to quickly recap what we've started talking about, we are now going to summarize the recent SDK changes in our Golang SDK that we have finally released in its beta version. The project currently is mostly finished when it comes to its core functionalities. We would obviously want to add some other things to it, and we're gonna go for this next steps and additions later on. I just wanted to give a quick summary and overview of what it looks like. In the README, there's like a quick demo which I think showcases its capabilities pretty well. So what we can do with this SDK, it provides us a way to both parse the raw OpenSLO definition. The definition can be provided in either JSON or YAML formats. The SDK provides a typed definition of each resource. So each resource is represented in the SDK through a Golang struct. You can view that here, and this is done in the OpenSLO package. We can then navigate to concrete version of the OpenSLO schema, and let's see how the SLO in version 1 looks like. Maybe I'll increase the font on the screen as well. And here's the main object definition. Each field has JSON tags defined, and this is the name of the field in the actual schema, in the actual raw YAM or JSON file. There are a number of like additional functions, methods, and helpers available here, which helps working with these objects, transforming them, comparing them. Each object, each concrete definition is also implementing an interface that is defined in the OpenSLO package. This is like our general contract for each object that we want each object to fulfill. So each of these concrete structs, like we saw the SLO struct, has to have these methods in order to fulfill the object interface. This also helps working with multiple different versions and different objects, because you can operate on a slice of, in Golang, for those that don't know, Golang, a slice is like an array. Think of it as a list. So you can work with a list of objects, and you can operate on this interface to make that easier. Okay, so as we can see in this example, we also have the OpenSLO SDK package. If you have a better name for it, better names for these packages, as the disclaimer in the SDK says, this is a very experimental and in very active development version. So we expect some minor and maybe even major breaking changes in the API before we release the V1 version and stabilize the API of this SDK. But the OpenSLO SDK package provides some additional helpers to, for example, help decode and help encode these objects. It also provides some utility functions, like a function to validate all the objects at once. The Go SDK, apart from being the source of the OpenSLO resource definitions, is also home to these resources validation logic. So if we go back to our V1 package and maybe look at service, because it's just going to be way easier than our SLO object, we can see that there's this validate function, which is part of the object interface I showed you before. And here we can see we have the service validation defined. We're using Govi validation library to write these validation rules. And this is important because in the later part, I'm gonna talk through the next steps and what Govi allows us to do in terms of documentation, but that's gonna come next. And each of the fields in this resource that have some specific roles has validation defined for it. And every validation rule is also fully tested. So the coverage here should be, I think, 100% for all of these objects. Sorry, I clicked the wrong one. I wanted to see service test. Yeah. So every resource has tests for each of its fields. And also there's a runnable example for each of these resources. These runnable examples are something that is native to Golang. And if we go to the documentation. I don't have a link here, but we can just do go package dev, OpenSLO, SDK. Will it find it for me? Okay, I can just hack it and do something like this. Yeah. So when exploring the documentation for this SDK, if we go to version v1, we can see that we have all of these examples, and these are these examples can be executed even in the Go package Go dev, which is the like a standard source for Go packages documentation, and we can actually run it here inside our browser and wait for the remote server to respond. And we should see the okay, time of running builds. That's interesting. Yeah, but this is something you can easily run. If someone wrote something or raised hand, I heard the sound, but I don't see it.
I just written that I didn't know about it, like that these examples are actually runnable.
Yeah, the only condition you have to meet is your file has to have the example _example_ test suffix, and there you have to have this plain function which starts with example, and it also has to have after example has to come an export. Oh, maybe it doesn't have to be exported, but there has to come like a valid either variable or function or type name, and it will be automatically associated with this type, as you can see, right? Because here we have documentation for type service, and here is the example for it. It's like automatically tied to this type. So that's like a nice Go thing of documenting Golang code. And yeah, I think that's about it. As you can see, this example shows how to both read an OpenSLO resource definition from raw YAML representation, as well as define resource in code, then how to validate both of those resources, and then how to write both of those resources. In here, we're choosing JSON format, and that's what the output looks like. Yeah, so do you have any questions to that?
That's a neat. But you showed the package.go. Do you have some dark background filter turned on your browser, or the logo just looks like that in there? Like,
if you go here,
yeah, because
you can
like,
see
it's barely visible.
Yeah, true.
I wonder why. But yeah. But I just checked the light version, and it looks good there. So I guess you have some dark filter.
Maybe, yeah. I think you can choose the. Okay.
Okay, it's a minor thing anyway.
Yeah,
looks good.
Yeah. So, any questions to that, or?
I have no question. I just wanted to say this is really like groundbreaking for the future of, for example, our project. Like in the form it's in now, I'm not quite sure we are able to use it with V1, as we spoke, and we were gonna get to this in the Kubernetes compatibility point, I think, but with some changes to the types, which are basically just usually gonna be tags or some like specific changes that kind of have to be there for the custom resource definitions to be able to be generated. Aside from that, this is basically all someone's operator in Kubernetes would need to kind of get going. So it's gonna just be an import away, and the person would just take the custom resource definitions that are going to be hopefully generated here. They can install them in their cluster and just write business logic, and that's going to be just absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so I think we can move to the next part. So what's coming for us? What are we working on currently? And I think we can start with the Kubernetes compatibility, or we can call it ability and support, right? So Robin, take it away. Don't know if you want to share your screen or something.
That's a good question. I'm actually not sure if I want to show my screen. If I have stuff to show, maybe I will just talk about kind of the state of things as I see them now, as someone who had not as much time, or didn't make the time rather, for OSCO, which is the Kubernetes operator project that we're working on together with Patrick, or sometimes working on. And so like how we see Go SDK, and also kind of the missing pieces that are missing for us to kind of fully utilize the OpenSLO Go SDK, let's say. I guess
just maybe I will just add one more thing before I forget. That as I mentioned before, the SDK is in its beta. I tried my best to test it against some real definitions of OpenSLO, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to find many of these, and there might be simply even now some validation rules or maybe even type definitions which are simply not correct, right? I was literally just looking at the README and writing it down, coding it down in Golang. So there might be some inaccuracies, and yeah. So that's the disclaimer.
Yeah, cool. Let's see. That's obviously expected. I think bugs just happen naturally in these things, and us integrating the schema or the Go SDK will be kind of a really good step forwards here. So just to kind of like on the side of progress on the Kubernetes support, I think the scope from the point of OpenSLO side is quite well defined. And at the same time, there are like opportunities to kind of polish it to almost eternity, where there are some like basics that you can do that you kind of have to do to even get this to work in the first place, and then there are like optional things that you can do, which is, for example, do like generate validation webhook rules. Which would be like perfect, where you can if a wrong object kind of comes to Kubernetes, we can just run it through Go validate function for that object, and it would just say whatever happens to be wrong, and tell it to the user. That would be quite amazing. But yeah, but like the thing is, as I said, the work even on OSCO wasn't so great, and like even less it was great on the side of the Kubernetes operator. I will really try to make time now, and but with the disclaimer that I'm not really a Golang developer per se as my job, and I might need like support at some points during the process. And Matish, you've been really great with that for sure up until now. And like
I will try to continue being.
I think it's gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me not to get like too deep into this like repeating cycle, the status is basically no progress has been made since the last status meeting, I would say, but things are looking up, and I think the progress that you did aligns with what we are looking for, with some caveats towards the V2 alpha version, where where I think there's still potential for some changes that I think I will bring with pull requests, with like smaller pull requests. Instead of just making it like one huge thing, which I was kind of trying to go with, like for in the first place, but then after thousands of files changed, it kind of blew up on me because I just couldn't get it to work. And for me, the complexity is also in that while I'm making those changes somewhere, I also want to test it like at that time and develop OSCO alongside it to kind of see what's going on, if it works, because I think that's even the best validation for us to see if OpenSLO actually works for the Kubernetes operator kind of.
Yeah. We can definitely think about trying to have some like really complete end-to-end tests. I mean, we could even try like spinning, a lightweight Kubernetes version and just running like a initial setup there, have OSCO run there, have maybe Prometheus run there, right? And just see how it all works together. So
potentially that could be possible. I have to see. I really hope / think that on the side of Go SDK or like OpenSLO, I'm not quite sure that's going to be necessary. I think the real like product will be Go SDK being kind of functionally correct and valid, and like the functions that it provides are going to be correct in their definition. And the custom resource definitions for Kubernetes are going to be generated, and in the pipeline we can just do something like from the code every time the pipeline runs, generate. And if there is a difference between like what we generated and the main branch, then like there's some drift in that, and kind of it doesn't match, right? And thus it should fail or be regenerated or something like that. So I think it's a good source of truth, and it should work out of the box. And yeah. Okay. Well, I think I said everything. I think we all kind of hopefully understand what I was trying to say, even though sometimes I just talk sentences. Yeah. So let us hope that I find more time for this, because it's really sad that I haven't.
I guess no worries. Like, all of us are not primarily OpenSLO developers, so having not a lot of time is pretty common. At least as well from my side, I would love to spend more time on this project.
You can, Philip.
I mean, like
I allow you.
there are things that stay in my way, like, I don't know, Netflix or something like that.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think Philip, you can take it away and share some insights onto what we mean by rework our Hugo website and include documentation there, or move rather documentation there, right? So take it away.
So for those who don't know, OpenSLO has a site, working site, called at openslo.com. It's fairly simple. What it contains mostly is redirect to Slack, to repository, and some blogging session, blogging part that I've added to the thank you for sharing that. At some point, I've been adding this blogging session to the site. It is based on on Hugo, which is like a statically rendered site. And yeah, for a while we've been thinking about how to make this site better, because like as we can see in current form, it does not. It serves its purpose, but it could be better. It could, for example, it would be more how to call it correctly. It could be more better looking if, for example, someone who is interested in OpenSLO could read the documentation of OpenSLO on the site instead of on GitHub, which is primarily for devs. So yeah, we've been thinking. Actually, Mateusz had an idea to rework it, redo it with again with Hugo. So we will at the bottom we will stay on the same framework, but maybe with Doxy, as a lot of like popular tools are using, like Open and Telemetry is, I think, using Doxy. So yeah, I've been working on it for a while. Until now, I've mostly been running Doxy, looking what you can actually achieve with it from the baseline, and what we would have to add to actually not lose any functionality that we have currently, like logging part or the others. It looks like it's pretty robust, so we should be fine. But we'll see how it will go during the work. I will try to show. I will try to share some beta versions after the shortly on our Slack. And actually, that's it from my side. Like, yeah, I'm working on it. Hopefully, I will find a lot of time for that, because it's kind of fun to work with Hugo.
Yeah, Golang all the way.
Yeah, like. And just to mention, I'm not a front-end developer, so there might be some shady code.
You can always become one.
It shows. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Sorry. I'm not sure, but I like the idea is good.
Já udělám večeři a budete spát.
Patrick, you are not muted. I wanted to say something, but okay. No.
So there's a really important part of why I even thought about touching our website is our documentation. Currently, this is all defined in README, the famous or infamous README in OpenSLO main GitHub repository. And one of the reasons why we pushed for the Golang SDK is to have one source of truth for our schema. And currently, this source of truth is the README, but the plan is for the Golang SDK to take that role away from README and kick README in the gut and just remove it. I was mentioning before, when presenting the OpenSLO Golang SDK, I was mentioning Govi, the validation library that we're using. And one of its features that I would like to utilize here is the ability to create a validation plan. This validation plan is basically a structured document, either in YAML or JSON, which contains all of the fields that that you have defined for your struct, along with its validation rules and other additional details like descriptions, examples, and just a plethora of different metadata fields that you can set there. And this validation plan really is, we can think of it kind of like a JSON schema thing. I'm not saying that in a way that it is a JSON schema adhering specification, but rather that it's a document that, or it's a file that documents your the shape of your objects in a similar way as JSON schema does that. And what I'm hoping to do is to use that and generate our documentation from it. Obviously, the documentation would need some additional details like extended descriptions, right? The how-tos, maybe some examples of the holistic OpenSLO usage. But as to the shape of the specification, so the shape of each of the resources, the rules that each of the fields of the resource must follow. So, for example, for SLO, what are the rules for metadata name field? All of that can be generated from our validation rules defined in the Go SDK, and this is something that we can very nicely use. This generated file, this generated document, we can hopefully really easily and nicely use it to generate our Hugo documentation site. And that's the dream, baby.
To add some background, there was one trial already to actually add the documentation from the README to the site, but we at that point we decided to make it like super lazy. So we wanted to update the site with each commit to the README and just like render it on the site. I've been working with that, and it was like super bad. It was horrible in a sense that, yeah, like this rendering did not work. Like Hugo didn't want to work correctly with the README injected there for some reason. So yeah, I think like blocker for making this site better was actually having some better source of truth, a better way to actually inject into the site some, maybe inject is not the best word, but to put some documentation, like render documentation from other source of truth to the site. Because we were afraid of like situations like, hey, what if we will change a lot in the README and site will stay the same? Like, what to do with that? If we will have other source of truth, it will be way simpler. So thank you for that input, Mateusz.
Is my name. Just want to show you, I haven't prepared an example generated from our OpenSLO schema, but I do have a working example of such a document generated from Noble 9 schema. And I can show you it here. It's gonna, I hope it's gonna, okay, I forgot it's one line. It's a compacted JSON. Yeah, I think we just killed this. My NeoVim is not gonna be able to handle that. And this is in internal. Yeah, someone is saying something or sending something.
Again, I have to stop doing that. I wrote that you have weak NeoVim setup.
Okay. Whatever. Now it should be able to open that. Yes. So can even try to see how service resource looks like in Noble 9. Yeah, here's the service. So that's how it looks like. We can obviously manipulate the output in every way we want, but what you're seeing here is it's pretty much one-to-one what Govi plan outputs. and you can see that for each path, so for each property in the for kind service, you have the type, you have the Golang doc attached. You also have your validation rules defined in Govee, and you can see that you get those descriptions, error codes. You get those details if you had some. You get examples if you had some. So there's a lot of nice things here to be used, and the end result is that we have one source of truth, right? Our documentation will be synced with this source of truth, so there won't be any way for it to float away from what we define in the Go SDK. Yeah, it's just gonna make our lives much easier, I think. Because we'll have to only maintain one place when it comes to our docs, and that will be the Golang SDK. Yeah.
And so like how this will look in practice is that you basically will create some Go program / script that will kind of do this kind of do this plan, then you will parse that plan.
Exactly.
And based on that you will like output an MD and then you're done.
Yeah. So this is exactly what I'm doing here in the Noble 9 SDK. I'm just running my own script, and it's calling somewhere here. Govee plan. Yeah, for each of these resources, it's called Govee plan.
Okay.
And it does some. It processes the outputs, adds some additional details, and does like project-specific stuff. But at its core, what you're seeing here, it's like 95% of it is just outputted by Govee, and you don't have to really do anything, any extra work to get it. Yeah.
Is it able to do some like cool tricks to like if you have like children pause, can you like do those as markdown links? So you would like scroll, on click, you would scroll to
yeah, that's the exact reason why I have it here.
Nice.
Because I want something like that. Yes.
Nice. Yeah, I have nothing to say. That looks awesome. And in practice, how would that look? That would be so for OpenSLO. Would that Go script live in OpenSLO then, and it would generate its own README, and also for the but like the web where I'm not even sure where the website lives actually. So
we would want to ditch the README entirely. So just move the documentation to the website, right, and have it nicely rendered there with, like, as you said, like clickable links, some nicely formatted examples, and just make it much nicer and easier also to navigate than just plain README file.
Okay.
Especially since if we're gonna have all of those rules generated and well documented, it's gonna take a lot more space than our current README. Our current README is already fairly big, but it has a lot of gaps in documentation. And if we would fill those gaps, it would be like, I don't know, probably like 5,000 lines or maybe even more, right? So it would be just really hard to navigate through a plain Markdown format.
Regarding where the site lives, it's hosted on GitHub.
Yeah, that's just GitHub IO.
It's statically rendered, so yeah.
Nice. And like one technical question I have: who owns OpenSLO.com? Just I don't know.
The domain itself.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't like it's. I'm
Us?
almost sure
Double
that double nine. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
think
might be
it's.
true. Yeah. I might need to ask about that actually. 'Cause
I like the Jakub who used to work with us on OpenSLO. He was doing. I think it's something on AWS, but I'm not sure.
Okay, no problem.
There was some job about around it,
Cool.
but
I I can ask to make sure though. I'm just writing it right now to not forget about it.
But I'm sure that domain that belongs to double nine.
Okay, cool. It's fine. I just, yeah, no problem with that.
Someone has to own it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the last point, Aaron is unfortunately not here with us today, but I asked him to research the JSON schema topic. So what I mean by that, we would like to generate JSON schema, or to be able to generate JSON schema from our Go SDK. And there are some better and worse tools in the Golang ecosystem that can do that, that can generate JSON schema from Go structs. But yeah, I haven't really dug into that too deep. It's something we want to have because, well, Go SDK can only be used in Golang ecosystems, right? So if a company does not use Golang and their product is written, for instance, in Python, then they are once again forced to implement both the validation rules and the type definitions on their own. And we want OpenSLO to be easily adopted. And in order to do that, I think JSON schema is the de facto industry standard right now for code or for language agnostic schema definitions. Yeah. So JSON schema has some it has some issues. I've dedicated probably like around a week of my life's work in the past to do a POC on implementing JSON schema for that was for Noble 9 resource definitions. And I've managed to do that for SLO, which is by far the most complex object. And just to give you some perspective, Noble 9 resource definitions are much more complex than OpenSLO. They're like a superset of OpenSLO schema, and they're much more complex. And it's the JSON schema that I made was like 7,000 lines of code or something like that, something crazy like that. And just for SLO service and project, I think. And the biggest problem that the JSON schema has is like the two biggest problems for me are, first, it comes with different versions, in different versions. There are different drafts and different versions of JSON schema. And some of the tools only support specific draft versions. An example of that is YAML language server, like the most established language server for YAML. And it only supports one of the older drafts. Like I think it stopped supporting new drafts like a couple of years ago. And so when you implement JSON schema, you have to be aware of those different versions. And sometimes just tools might not work with your version if you choose a newer one, or if you choose like an older one, it might be a problem as well. So that's one problem. And another problem is that JSON schema it is not really great when it comes to complex validation logic. So it's nice when your fields are simple, and it's nice when your fields do not depend on each other. So for instances where your fields are on the same level, and for example, you have metadata object, and then you have name and display name, and maybe you want to say that only one of these can be provided. That's very simple. There's even like in newer draft versions, there's like a one-off keyword which handles those scenarios nicely. But for scenarios where your fields are on different levels in your object. So, for example, we have metadata name, and then we have in our spec we have description, and we want to make sure that user only provides name or description, but not both. Then it becomes very problematic to write that logic. And I found that for some scenarios, it was almost impossible for me to implement some logic in JSON schema when I was doing that POC. And that's one of the main reasons why we chose the Golang as a native language for the schema, because there we are able to execute and enforce all of the rules that we have currently in version 1. We can, of course, try to make the schema a bit easier. It is sometimes it is kind of our fault of the people that design those specifications, that we make them so complex that tools like JSON schema just can't handle some scenarios. But yeah, it is what it is, and that's kind of like a trivia for JSON schema. But we want to try to generate it nonetheless. Maybe we can sacrifice on some of the more complex rules if we have them, specifically for V1, like in V2 alpha and going to V2 version. We are trying to simplify many things, right? So I think V2 in its final shape should be an easier specification than V1 is currently. But we still have to support V1, and the JSON schema that we will generate, it doesn't have to be like 100% accurate, but even having those, simple type rules and being able to generate those types in your native language is already like a big win for me, and worthwhile doing.
Yeah, so the potential idea could be that you have the Go SDK as the source of truth. From that, you create the JSON schema, and then if you want to like do a Go as do a Python SDK, you would then go you would then go take the JSON schema, you generate kind of the baseline, and then for the validation you kind of go and hand edit like the rest that kind of has to be supported like that. Like what I'm asking is like if that's the workflow that we intend to support.
I think JSON schema can handle most of our validation rules with like few exceptions. But if there would be rules that we wouldn't be able to implement in JSON schema for whatever reason, then yeah, we would have to like describe that in the specific documentation for the generated JSON schema, right? And tell the implementers that, hey, you have these rules here. You don't have these rules. You have to write them on your own, right? And we cannot provide them for you out of the box.
Right.
But I don't think there's gonna be a lot of that, honestly.
And so like the biggest bottleneck is it's like finding a good library that can generate the most JSON schema it's like possible, basically, for a JSON schema version that we are looking to get.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have not much to ask or add to that. Sounds like a good plan, I think. Like better than what I would like. I don't have any suggestions for this. The only thing that came to mind is that like some projects already do this, like that they have like multiple language SDKs for whatever they're doing, or clients, and like you probably considered this and you have seen this quite a few times. I haven't, but I just thought it could be cool to look into like what they are doing, if they're like just handwriting each SDK, or if they also have such setup like we are trying to do here. I looked at Kubernetes client, for example, in Python. Well, I saw some Swagger kind of thing there that it seems like that they're using some source of truth from somewhere and importing it probably into the Python. So I think we're on the right track.
If I remember correctly, the Kubernetes have 3 languages supported, like Java, Python, and Go. And I'm not sure if they are like, I think they are just writing them separately, but maybe incorrect actually here. Like
honestly, I don't know. I looked during the call, so.
I think this is something that will be developed and will develop itself once the users come, and maybe we'll end up just having multiple different SDKs in different languages, and maybe just testing them together on the same input files or whatever, right? That's that's like a starting point, and we want to research that first and see how does it look. So
yeah, I think ultimately that's kind of the most interesting. I think is that like if someone comes and he's like, yeah, I want to make OpenSLO work for XY language, and we can just tell them like, okay, we have this Go SDK thing, and here is what we thought we could do with the JSON schema. For like, just hypothetically, we don't even do anything now, but we just thought that this would be the way to go. What do you think? Like, would you want this, or do you have some other ideas? And depending on whatever they say, because like literally, like they're gonna be the ones carrying forward the work. Like we can just support them once they arrive, and until then just live with Go SDK, because I'm not sure if we came across any use case or any user that came and said they wanted anything but the Go SDKs before.
I did.
Okay.
And that is some folks from Google, and they have a tool called SlowGen.
Oh yeah.
And supporting OpenSLO is and was and still is on the roadmap. Just trying to find the GitHub repo for that.
We had it somewhere on the list. I remember it. I know this project.
It lives under OpenSLO.
Yeah, that's a different one. Sorry, maybe I'm confusing the. Wait, what was
Isn't it Google?
Maybe SLO generator.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah,
that's funny.
Did we actually started to collect these projects that we know of that are using OpenSLO?
Yeah, that's another thing that something that we could really nicely present on our site, Philip.
Yeah.
Another motivation for you.
I want to mention Google on the side, please.
Yeah, with the logo. It's just gonna be like logo and then
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have actually come full circle. We in Heureka, in our past company, we used the SLO generator as the first kind of basis for our SLO system, and I think in some capacity it's gonna work. It's gonna still be running there at this point. So yeah, here we go.
Yeah. So we also had Mike Cox. He's working at Reddit right now. He also wrote an article some time ago about their internal SLO implementation. And yeah, turns out they are also using OpenSLO there. So I'm always surprised when I hear, because sometimes I live in this vacuum that I think that no one is using it. Because yeah, we only had this README, right? So how do you know if someone is using OpenSLO? There's no like list of README views, and then you can see who the visitors on the repository are and say they are, I don't know, your users, right? With library, it's a bit easier, right? Because you can often see the projects that are using this specific GitHub repository. But yeah, I'm always surprised that there's actually a fair amount of OpenSLO users in the wild. And yeah, they are often fairly wild in a way that they implemented some version of OpenSLO based on the README. And yeah, that's another thing that I want to start doing, is trying to collect those usages and also trying to ask those people to maybe share their configurations defined in OpenSLO. Because I already talked with Mike about running the Go SDK validation on some of their internal SLOs. So that would be cool to see if I implemented the Go SDK the right way, or maybe if they have some issues on their side when they were implementing OpenSLO. But yeah. I think that like our main goal this year is just to structure it all, right? to make it more concrete, easily verifiable in many languages. Because in the past it was just that README, and that's just Wild West, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. Maybe what I was writing down here and kind of looking through is that some projects use like adopters MD file, or like they have some call to action, like really asking people to like join Slack, and it's not like, by the way, we have Slack. It's like, okay, if you use our project, really shout at us that you do, and maybe like we can help you more. Maybe that would be worth right now, since I feel like we have these bits and pieces, and like sometimes someone comes to the Slack, and he's like, oh yeah, by the way, at Reddit we use it like hugely, and then Aaron comes and he's like, yeah, I'm leading like kind of the SLO thing at Cloudflare, and or like not leading but kind of managing, and we're trying to use OpenSLO as well. Like these are pretty major customers, I feel, or like they're not customers but potential contributors to the project, and like industry leaders in a way, where like their input always would be useful, I think.
Yes, and another thing I can like share right now too is that I'm in the process of writing Noble 9 converter from OpenSLO to Noble 9, and we are planning to make it official soon enough. And yeah, Noble 9 will have like a fully fledged OpenSLO support. So yeah, I think definitely we can start piling up those user stories and supported products, and yeah, just Philip has to make the site, right? So
Yeah. I know I'm blocking whole progress of the project.
Yeah. No pressure,
do
but
better.
like, yeah, no
But pressure.
pressure. No pressure.
I need some pressure, otherwise.
Medium pressure,
Yeah, please pressure me.
just the right amount of pressure. Yeah. So I think that's all we had planned for today. I don't know if you have any additional remarks.
I actually have to go, so I hope not.
Well, see you. Enjoy your evenings and weekends.
Yeah,
And
you too.
thanks for
See you next time.
participating.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Peace.